All right, so welcome everyone to this deep dive. And today we are diving into the world of dangerous animals.
Indeed.
We've got a list here. It's called the 20 most dangerous animals in the world. And, when you think about dangerous animals, I think a lot of people immediately think, okay, like lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my. But
Right.
this list it's got some surprises on it, and it's not always just about like size and sharp teeth and
It's not just the obvious, yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, we're going to uncover those unexpected threats.
Yeah,
The venom, the
Yeah.
disease, some things that you just wouldn't expect to be on a list like this.
totally. So we're gonna jump right in, and I think this first one is gonna be a surprise to a lot of people. You ready for this? The most dangerous animal
Hit me with it.
in the world
Okay.
is humans.
Yeah, makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. And, I think a lot of people would hear that and think, oh, well, humans are dangerous to each other. Obviously, we have,
Of course.
wars and violence and all of that.
Sure.
But this is really
But it goes beyond that, right?
more about the environmental impact, right?
Exactly, yeah. The impact that we have on the environment.
Yeah.
Thinking about habitat destruction, pollution, climate change, all of those things endanger countless species
Yeah.
and disrupt entire ecosystems.
So it's really kind of looking at it from a broader,
Big picture.
big picture perspective, not just, human violence.
Exactly.
So we're not just focusing on individual animals here. We're really thinking about,
The interconnectedness
the whole ecosystem.
of it all
Yeah, how we fit into that.
and the consequences of our actions.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's move on. We've got to talk about, this is like a classic dangerous animal, right? The saltwater crocodile.
Of course, notorious for that bite force, right?
Oh, yeah. You always hear about how strong their bite is, but
It's
do you have any sense of
imagine the force needed to just crush bone,
Yeah,
We're talking about over 3,700 pounds per square inch of pressure.
that's unbelievable.
It's insane. And unfortunately, they're responsible for a significant number of attacks on humans, especially in areas where their territory overlaps with ours.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of one of those.
No.
So we've talked about crocs. We've got to talk about, another one that I think a lot of people think of when they think dangerous animals.
Oh, yeah.
Sharks.
Sharks. Right. Always a popular one.
Yeah, but
Often portrayed as these mindless killing machines, but
Mhm.
the reality is a lot more nuanced than that.
For sure. And I think, the great white is kind of the
The poster child.
poster child
For sure.
for dangerous sharks. But really,
But attacks on humans are actually pretty rare.
yeah, so is it kind of all just media hype then?
I wouldn't say all. While attacks are rare, that potential for serious injury is very real.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that context really matters.
Okay.
A great white's much less likely to attack in open water, for example. But if you're splashing around in its hunting grounds, that's a different story.
Right. So it's all about understanding their behavior and
Sure.
kind of respecting their space.
Knowing their boundaries.
Yeah, totally. So, when I think about dangerous animals, I think venom, right? And I think snakes especially always kind of send shivers down my spine.
I get it. Snakes definitely deserve their reputation, I think.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, there are so many species with venom so potent, it can be lethal.
Oh, yeah.
And the inland taipan, for example, has venom that can kill a human in as little as 45 minutes.
45 minutes, that's incredibly fast. What makes their venom so deadly?
Well, it's not just the quantity, but the type of venom.
Okay.
The inland taipan's venom is a really potent neurotoxin. So it attacks the nervous system, leading to paralysis and respiratory failure.
Wow. So it's like,
It's terrifyingly efficient.
yeah.
Yeah.
So are all snake venoms neurotoxins?
No, not at all. Some, like the black mamba, they also have neurotoxins, but others, like certain vipers, they have hemotoxins.
Okay.
Those affect blood clotting and can cause internal bleeding and tissue damage.
So it's not just about being bitten, it's about what the venom does once it's in your system.
Exactly. Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it?
That's a whole different level.
The diversity of ways that animals have evolved to defend themselves or hunt their prey.
Totally. And speaking of diverse defenses, have you ever heard of a box jellyfish?
Oh, yeah. Box jellyfish. Those are the ones with the super fast acting venom, right?
Yeah, they are. So how fast are we talking?
We're talking minutes, not hours.
Minutes. Okay, that officially bumps them to the top of my nope list.
Right. It's definitely a creature to be aware of, especially if you're swimming in waters where they're found and you know what makes their venom so dangerous.
What's that?
It attacks not just the nervous system, but also the heart and skin cells.
Oh, wow. It's like a full body.
It's an all-out assault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about how snakes use fangs to deliver their venom.
Right.
How do jellyfish do it?
They have these specialized stinging cells called nematocysts on their tentacles. And when they're triggered, those cells release barbed threads that inject the venom into the victim.
So it's like a microscopic harpoon?
It is a microscopic harpoon, exactly.
That's wild.
And speaking of harpoons, there's another creature that uses a similar strategy, albeit on a much smaller scale, the cone snail.
Wait, cone snails? Like those beautiful shells you find on the beach sometimes?
Those are the ones. But don't let those beautiful shells fool you. These seemingly harmless creatures have a harpoon-like tooth that they use to inject paralyzing venom into their prey.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, so not something I want to pick up and admire too closely, then.
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing, though, how, these really small creatures can pack such a powerful punch.
It really is. It's a great reminder that danger can lurk in the most unexpected places.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're on the subject of unexpected dangers, let's talk about a creature that I think often gets overlooked. The freshwater snail.
A freshwater snail? I mean, what's so dangerous about a snail?
Well, they might not bite or sting, but they can carry parasites that cause a disease called schistosomiasis.
Schistosomiasis. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this disease affects millions of people worldwide, and it can damage internal organs.
So it's not just about avoiding bites and stings. It's also about being aware of the diseases these animals can carry.
Exactly. It's a whole other layer of danger.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another seemingly innocuous creature that can pose a serious threat.
Okay. What's that?
The pufferfish.
Oh, pufferfish. Yeah. Yeah, I know those are considered a delicacy in some cultures, but I've also heard they can be incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, that's right. Pufferfish contain a potent neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin.
Okay.
Which is concentrated in their liver, ovaries, and skin.
So if it's not prepared properly, then...
If it's prepared incorrectly, even a small amount can be fatal.
Wow. So it's a real case of one wrong bite and...
Well, let's just say you'd want to make sure your chef knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a real-life example of how, something that's considered a delicacy can also be a potential killer.
A delicate balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground already, from venomous snakes and jellyfish to sharks with a powerful bite to even snails and pufferfish with these hidden dangers. And I think it's interesting because we can actually group these animals by their kind of danger mode, so to speak.
Okay, I like that.
So let's start with venom. I mean, we've already talked about snakes and jellyfish and cone snails. Are there any other venomous creatures on this list that we should discuss?
Oh, there are a few more, yeah. You have the stonefish, for example, which is often camouflaged on the ocean floor. And it's got those spines that inject a potent venom when stepped on.
Oh, that sounds like a painful way to learn a lesson about watching where you step.
It is. It is. And then there's the blue-ringed octopus, which is quite small, but packs a venomous punch that can cause paralysis and respiratory failure.
It's amazing how these, small creatures can be so deadly.
It really is.
So we've got a whole array of animals that rely on venom for defense or for hunting.
Right.
But what about those animals whose main weapon is their size and aggression?
Right.
We talked about saltwater crocodiles earlier.
Yeah.
What other heavy hitters are on this list?
Well, there's the hippopotamus, which, might seem harmless munching on grass.
Yeah.
But they're actually incredibly territorial and responsible for a surprising number of human fatalities each year.
I've always been fascinated by hippos. They seem so docile, when you see them in zoos. Right. But then you hear these stories about how aggressive they can be in the wild.
Oh, yeah. And those stories are true. I mean, incredibly strong and can move surprisingly fast, especially in water.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't think that.
They've got those massive teeth. They can inflict serious damage with a single bite.
I can imagine. So if you were to encounter a hippo in its territory, what would your strategy be?
Honestly, the best strategy is to avoid encountering a hippo in its territory in the first place.
It's
but
true enough.
If you do find yourself in that situation, the key is to give it a wide berth, move slowly and calmly, and avoid making any sudden movements that could be perceived as a threat.
So no, waving your arms around or anything?
No sudden movements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good advice. Good advice.
Yeah.
Now, while we're talking about large and potentially aggressive animals, we can't forget about the Cape buffalo. They have a reputation for being, pretty unpredictable.
Absolutely. Cape buffalo, they're incredibly powerful animals, known for those unpredictable charges.
Yeah, and they've got those horns.
Yeah, sharp horns and a thick hide. I mean, they're formidable opponents.
The source material actually mentions that they are considered one of the most dangerous animals in Africa.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is it simply their aggression, or is there more to it?
It's a combination of factors, really. They're incredibly strong. They have those sharp horns. They're very protective of their herd.
Right.
And they also have a reputation for holding grudges.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they'll sometimes circle back to attack, even after an initial encounter.
That's pretty intimidating.
It is, yeah.
So what's the key to staying safe around Cape buffalo?
Respecting their space. Avoid approaching them, especially if they have calves.
Okay.
And if you do encounter them, remain calm, avoid making eye contact, and move away slowly.
So it's kind of similar to the approach with hippos then.
Very similar. Yeah.
Respect their space. Don't make any sudden movements.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. So we've got hippos and Cape buffalo, both known for their aggression and their strength.
Right.
But what about elephants? I mean, they're obviously massive creatures.
They are.
But they seem to have a much more kind of gentler reputation.
Right. Elephants, they are generally peaceful animals, but they can be dangerous if they feel threatened, especially mothers protecting their young.
Right.
I mean, they have powerful tusks. They can easily trample anything in their path.
So it's kind of a proceed with caution situation.
I would say so, yeah. It's crucial to understand their body language.
Okay.
Flapping ears, trumpeting, head shaking.
Right.
Those are all warning signs that an elephant's feeling agitated and could become aggressive. So best to back away slowly and give them plenty of space.
So similar to hippos and Cape buffalo then, it's really about respecting their boundaries.
It is, yeah. It's all about boundaries.
And understanding their signals.
Reading those cues.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about our final danger mode, so to speak, and that is disease transmission.
Okay.
We already discussed freshwater snails and schistosomiasis.
Right.
What other creatures on the list kind of pose a threat through disease?
Well, we have the tsetse fly, which transmits a parasitic disease called sleeping sickness.
Sleeping sickness, yeah.
Yeah. And this disease can be fatal if it's left untreated.
Oh.
And it's a major health concern in parts of Africa.
I remember reading about sleeping sickness in school. It sounds pretty terrifying.
It is, yeah.
What are the symptoms?
Initially, you might experience fever, headache, joint pain, but as the disease progresses, it can cause confusion, personality changes, and eventually coma and death.
Oh, wow. That's really serious.
It is, yeah.
So how can you protect yourself from tsetse flies?
Well, wearing protective clothing like long sleeves and pants can help. There are also insect repellents specifically designed for tsetse flies. And if you're traveling to areas where they're common, it's a good idea to consult with your doctor about preventative medications.
So it's all about being proactive.
Exactly.
And taking the necessary precautions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, now what about those assassin bugs we mentioned earlier?
Assassin bugs, also known as kissing bugs, they can transmit a parasitic disease called Chagas disease.
Okay.
And this disease can cause some serious heart and digestive problems.
Wow.
And it's a major health issue in parts of South America.
How do they transmit the disease? Do they bite like mosquitoes?
They actually bite near the mouth or eyes.
Oh, yes.
Which is how they got the nickname kissing bugs.
Oh, okay.
They then defecate near the bite wound, and the parasite enters the bloodstream through the wound or mucous membranes.
Okay, that's definitely not a kiss I would want to receive.
No.
So with tsetse flies, we're talking about protecting ourselves from baits. And with assassin bugs, it's about being aware of their habits and taking steps to, prevent them from getting near our faces.
Exactly. And it brings us back to that bigger picture we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Human health is intricately connected to the health of the environment and the animals that we share it with.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. I mean, it's not just about protecting ourselves from individual animals.
Right.
It's about understanding the interconnectedness of all living things and taking steps to kind of preserve that delicate balance of our ecosystems.
Well said.
Yeah, so...
And that brings us to another important point. Context matters.
Right.
When it comes to assessing the danger posed by any animal.
Right. We talked about how, the likelihood of a shark attack can vary depending on where you are and what you're doing.
It does.
Are there other examples of how context kind of influences the level of danger an animal might present?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's take the Komodo dragon, for example.
Right.
It's the largest living lizard,
Yeah.
has a venomous bite, but attacks on humans are relatively rare.
So is it just a case of don't mess with them and they won't mess with you?
That's a good rule of thumb, but it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Komodo dragons are primarily scavengers, and their attacks on humans are often provoked by things like getting too close to their food or young.
So again, it's about respecting their space.
Exactly.
Understanding their behavior.
Understanding their behavior, yeah.
And another good example is, the stonefish we talked about earlier.
Right.
One of the most venomous fish in the world.
It is.
But it's not actively seeking out humans to sting.
No, it's not.
So it's not about living in fear.
Right.
It's about being informed and respectful.
I think that's a great way to put it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about appreciating the incredible diversity and power of the natural world.
Right.
While also understanding the potential risks and taking appropriate precautions.
Well said. I think this whole discussion about dangerous animals brings up an interesting point.
Yeah.
About how our perceptions of danger can influence our approach to conservation efforts.
I agree. It's easy to focus on protecting the animals that we find cute and cuddly.
Right.
But we sometimes neglect those that might seem scary or dangerous, even if they will play a vital role in the ecosystem.
So we might end up, pouring resources into protecting pandas, for example.
Right.
While overlooking less charismatic but equally important creatures like bats or snakes.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that every animal, even those we might find dangerous, has a role to play in the balance of nature.
So how do we reconcile that, our fear of these dangerous animals with the need to conserve them? I mean, it's easy to say respect their space, but what about those instances where human activity encroaches on their habitats?
That's a complex issue with no easy answers. It requires a delicate balancing act, finding ways to coexist and share resources while also ensuring the safety of both humans and animals.
So it's about finding solutions that kind of benefit both sides.
It is, yeah.
That sounds like a challenge, but it's also an opportunity.
It is.
To learn more about these creatures and how we can live together harmoniously.
Absolutely. It's about fostering a sense of respect and understanding rather than fear and animosity.
Well said. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, exploring the fascinating and sometimes terrifying world of dangerous animals. We've talked about venom, aggression, disease transmission, and the importance of context when assessing the level of danger an animal might pose.
And we've emphasized the importance of respecting these creatures, understanding their behavior, and taking steps to coexist safely.
Right, so let's do a quick recap for our listeners. We started with the surprising fact that humans top the list of the world's most dangerous animals, highlighting our impact on the environment and the delicate balance of ecosystems.
We then delved into the world of venomous creatures, from snakes and jellyfish to the surprising cone snail, emphasizing the diverse ways animals have evolved to defend themselves and hunt their prey.
We explored the power and aggression of animals like saltwater crocodiles, hippos, and Cape buffalo, stressing the importance of respecting their space and understanding their behavior to avoid dangerous encounters.
And we discussed the threat of disease transmission from animals like freshwater snails, tsetse flies, and assassin bugs, highlighting the need for preventative measures and responsible travel practices.
But most importantly, I think we've emphasized that our perception of danger doesn't always align with the reality of the threats these animals pose.
And that it's crucial to consider the broader ecological context and the vital role these creatures play in maintaining the health of our planet.
Exactly. So, dear listener, as we wrap up our exploration of these 20 dangerous animals, we want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question. Now that you've learned about these fascinating creatures, what other animals might pose hidden threats? And how does this new knowledge change your view of the natural world?
Yeah, it's really amazing to think about, how much we still don't know about the natural world and all the creatures we share it with. It really is. I mean, that's the beauty of exploration and discovery, right? There's always something new to uncover.
And sometimes those discoveries come with a little bit of danger.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about all the animals we haven't even discussed today.
Right.
Are there any that come to mind for you that might surprise our listeners with their potential for danger?
Well, yeah, you might not think of a deer as a particularly dangerous animal.
Right.
But they can actually pose a significant threat, especially during mating season when the males become more aggressive.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I've heard stories about, deer charging at cars and even attacking people.
And they can cause serious injuries with their antlers and hooves. So
Yeah.
even seemingly harmless animals can be dangerous under certain circumstances. It really underscores the importance of being aware of your surroundings and respecting all wildlife.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we're not always at the top of the food chain, even in our own backyards.
And speaking of unexpected dangers, we can't forget about the seemingly innocuous world of plants.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's some seriously dangerous plants out there.
Oh, yeah.
I remember learning about, poison ivy and oak and how the oils from those plants can cause like a really bad reaction.
Absolutely. And then there are plants like hemlock, which is highly poisonous if ingested.
Right.
And even some types of mushrooms that can deadly.
So it's not just the animal kingdom we need to be mindful of.
It's not.
The plant world can also pack a punch.
It can.
It really drives home the point that, knowledge is power when it comes to navigating the natural world safely.
I completely agree. The more you know about the potential dangers, the better equipped you are to avoid them and appreciate the beauty and complexity of nature without putting yourself at risk.
Well said. So, dear listener, as we conclude our deep dive into the world of dangerous animals, remember that it's not about living in fear, but about fostering respect, understanding, and a healthy dose of caution.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those what-if questions. There's a whole world of incredible creatures out there waiting to be discovered. And with a little bit of knowledge, you can navigate that world safely and with a sense of wonder.
Absolutely. That's it for this deep dive into the wild side of nature. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, thanks for diving in with us.